this hexagon block, I've already cut my pink and blue hexagons. I'm going to show you how to cut yours from using my orange one as an example. I've also got my fabric 5 for my background triangles and half triangles. Now I'm going to show you how to cut the hexagons using the 4.5 inch strips of fabric. You're going to need your triangle ruler, and I'm going to fold my 4.5 inch strip in half this way on and just finger press it so it stays in place. Then take my ruler. I'm looking for the 4.25 inch line that's going to go on the fold of my fabric. And then I'm going to cut on the left, cut on the right. And when I open it out, there's my hexagon. You can check that you've used the right measurement and everything by looking at your hexagon this way. Now if you turn it this way and fold it in half again, you can see these sides line up. Turn it again, fold it in half, turn it again, fold it in half. It's always going to be the same. So there you go, nice and easy to cut all these hexagons for this block. And now we're going to cut the triangles and the half triangles for setting the hexagons. If you have one of the half triangle rulers, you can use this to cut the half triangle off the end. And it also allows you to then, once you've cut one, you can turn it and continue to cut more half triangles. If you don't have that ruler, you can use your ordinary triangle ruler. You need to place this line here, the dashed line on the left of the centre line, on the edge of your fabric, and the 2.5 inch line on the bottom, like that. Now I've got my fabric folded wrong sides together, so when I make my cut I have this half triangle and also this half triangle. And for the end of the block, you're going to need one of each. So once I've cut my half triangle, I can then cut my setting triangles by either rotating the ruler around and keeping on cutting down the strip, or by flipping the strip over and doing the same thing. So you're going to need 20 triangles altogether. So I'm going to see how many I get here from my strip. 2, 4, 6, 20. Now that I've reached the end of the strip, I can also cut a couple of half triangles from here. I'm going to straighten up the end of my piece, just with the straight ruler, and then I can do half triangles again from here. And then I'm going to take my other strip and fold that in half so that I get the two opposite half triangles every time I cut. And cut one from this side. And then I can cut one from this side, but I just need to cut this first. There we go, that's all my pieces cut. So to lay out the block, you start with your 2 half triangles, like that, and then you get one of your hexagons, and then there'll be 2 full triangles, another hexagon, triangles, hexagon, and so on. So then I'll be repeating the order of these hexagons, and when I get to the end of the block, there's another 2 half triangles to go on the end. Now we're going to join all of this with straight seams. So for my left hand part of the block, I'll sew this on first, press it, and then sew this on. And then I'm going to sew 1 triangle onto the top right of this hexagon. For my next hexagon, I'm going to sew a triangle like this onto the bottom left and one like this onto the top right. And for the last one, I'm going to sew the triangle to the bottom left, half triangle to the top right, press that first, and then the other half triangle onto the bottom right. So I'll come back when I've sewn all those pieces and sections, and then we'll assemble the block together. To line up your half square triangle, you're going to make this corner here match, and then you have a little triangle peeking out at the end. When you've done that, press that seam open, and then to place the second triangle on, you're going to match the flat edge at the tip of that triangle to the seam at the back from your first half triangle. And I've pressed the first seam open and the second seam to one side. To sew the triangle on, you're just going to place it on top of your hexagon and match the flat tip of the triangle to the flat edge of the hexagon, so you'll have a little triangle showing at the other end. And now I've sewn my pieces together. I have my orange pieces with the 2 half triangles at one end, placed like that. So that's the beginnings of the 2 rows. And they're going to be followed by the pink, and then one of the purples with 2 triangles on, then another orange with 2 triangles, and then repeat the order. So we're going to have a pink, and then finally one of the purples with the 2 half triangles on. So these are the seams that we're going to be sewing. Now when you place these 2 together to sew, you can see that when they're opposite each other, this seam is angled that way and this seam is angled that way. So that means the 2 seams are going to cross over. Now a little tip for lining them up is that the edge of this seam allowance here intersects with the actual seam here. So if I place them like that, you'll find that when you sew your 1/4 inch seam, the 2 will cross over like that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of fiddling with, but you should be able to line them up okay. And if you just do that little folding back, you can see that you're in the right place. The other tip is that you will have a 1/4 inch triangle, little triangle overhanging at this end, and another one overhanging at this end. So it's worth pinning these seams to make sure those points are lined up correctly. That's going to make it a lot easier to join the seams. So let's go and get all those sewn together. And here we are. Here are my hexagon border blocks all sewn, and all I need to do now is to just go along and clip off these little corners, which will make it much easier to sew it onto the next pieces. I hope you have fun making these, and if it's your first time doing hexagons and my triangle patchwork techniques, there's plenty more that you can do now that you've got this skill. So really enjoy it, and we'll see you next time.